All right, so in this video, I want to go over a Tuscaloosa real estate market update. Are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? How is inflation affecting the market? How are interest rates affecting the market? How are tariffs affecting the market? What is going on in the Tuscaloosa real estate market? So I'm Phil Duke Jr. here with Living in Tuscaloosa County. I'm a licensed real estate broker with eXp Realty and pretty much a lifelong resident of Tuscaloosa. Been here since 1996, and I love making content about the local area. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. Alabama's a buyer beware state, so if you are looking to buy or invest, you need to have somebody that knows what they're doing. I would love to talk with you about whatever your real estate needs and whatever your real estate desires are. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So in April of 2024, okay, I'm recording this video on May 5th of 2025. So we're going to look back at April of this year, and we're going to look at April a year ago and kind of compare where are we at. So April of last year, there were 282 properties that sold. Residential, okay, we're not talking about land, we're not talking about commercial, we're not talking about multifamily. Residential sales in our area, 282. This year, April 2025, we're actually up a little bit. So despite what you might be hearing in the, again, everything, real estate is hyper local, right? What's going on in Tuscaloosa is going to be different than Phoenix. What's going on in Nashville is going to be different than Birmingham. So we got to look at area specific. What's going on in Tuscaloosa? In Tuscaloosa, the sales actually went up this year compared to last year. How many listings on the market right now? Right now we have 779 listings. If you go back on YouTube a long time ago, when I was a brand new real estate agent, I went and made a video when we dropped below 1,000 listings on the market. This has been years ago, and we're getting close to getting back up to 800 listings on the market, okay? So I probably will make a video when that happens. It hasn't happened yet, but we are trending upward. We're having more houses on the market than what we've had in a while, okay? Now, the average sales price for April 2024 last year was $326. This year, it's actually down slightly, okay? Nothing to worry about. I'm not concerned about this. I'm a real estate investor. I'm still trying to buy houses every single month. I think it's going to continue to go up. I think it was a couple reasons. I think you're starting to see some buy downs happening with interest rates. I think you're starting to see some repairs being negotiated in when they weren't negotiated in before. Maybe that's bringing the price down just a little bit. But overall, I think what we're going to see here is the real estate market overall still very strong. So just because there was a $6,000 dip from one year to the next, I wouldn't be too concerned with that. So we have 779 listings on the market. We had 298 that sold last month. So here's how we look at that. We've got 2.614 months of inventory. If we had no new listings on the market, 779 are still on the market, and 298 of those sell, and then the next month, 298 of those sell. In month 3, we're going to run out of houses. Now, we're coming up on the summer months. You know, there's new listings hitting the market every day. We're not foolish enough to think that there's not going to be any more. But this is how we historically measure, are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market? So 2.614 months of inventory normally signals that we're in a seller's market. If it's less than 6 months of inventory, then we're usually 4 to 6 is kind of a fair market. If we're above 6 months inventory, it's really a buyer's market. So the amount of inventory would say right now that we are in a seller's market, but I'm going to show you why that might not necessarily be the case here in just a second. Inventory is still low. Houses are still selling. The prices have come down just a little bit, okay? So there's some things that we got to look at overall. It's not just a crazy seller's market, okay? Average days on the market a year ago was 44 days, which was a big change up from 2 or 3 years before where we were putting houses on the market and it was, 10 or 15 offers within 2 or 3 days, and almost every house that hit the market was selling within a couple days. That is no longer the case. It wasn't the case last year. And last year we were at 44 days. This year we're at 56 days. So houses are starting to sit on the market a little bit longer. Again, that's why we got to look at the whole picture, not just the inventory number, to know are we in a buyer's market or are we in a seller's market in Tuscaloosa, okay? One of the big contributing factors to why the market is where it's at right now is that as of early 2025, okay, I saw this in an article and I couldn't find the article again, so thank goodness ChatGPT came along and bailed me out on this. When I saw this in an article, I couldn't find the article again. But as of early 2025, approximately 73.3% of U.S. mortgage borrowers have an interest rate below 5%. So what's happening right now is we've got a lot of people that could sell their house and make a lot of money. I'm routinely talking to homeowners that could sell their house for $100,000 in profit. They could sell it, they could pay some closing costs, they could pay off what they currently owe, and they'd walk away with $100,000 or $150,000 or $200,000 or $300,000. So there's a lot of houses out there where if they really needed to sell, they could sell them. And normally this time of year, we start seeing more houses hit the market. We start having people say, hey, Phil, school's about to be out. We actually had graduation at the University of Alabama this past weekend. Most high schools are having their graduation this weekend. We're getting into the summer months where people with kids can move, and most mamas and daddies don't want to move and mess up the kids during the school year. So normally this time of year, late April, early May, mid-May, we start seeing more houses hit the market because they can list their house, they can sell it, and they can move, and they can be settled in the new one before a new school year starts. The problem right now is that most people have an interest rate below 5%. So, we're seeing, a lot of people are just saying, I'm just not going to move because if I move, I'm going to be somewhere between 6 and 7%. I pulled these, I get a daily interest rate email from one of our vendor partners over at Movement Mortgage, and this is what they sent me just the other day. No matter which program, you're looking at 6 to 7%, right? 5.994 on the low end there, 6.957 there in the top center. You're looking at a 6 to 7% interest rate. So if you're sitting in your house, like I refinanced mine, I'm a veteran, I got a VA loan, and when the interest rates went down to 2.25% on a 30-year VA loan, I refinanced, and I'm not putting my house on the market unless I'm deciding to move out of town, unless I have a health issue, right? Unless I have a medical issue that prevents me from working and I can't pay my bills. Like, I'm just not moving because I'd have to go up to a much higher interest rate. Okay, so we're not seeing as much inventory hitting the market. We're not going to see a ton of a huge. We'll see a small influx of homes, but we're not going to see like we normally see in the summer months. We didn't see it last year. I don't expect us to see it this year because of the current state of interest rates, okay? And that's why we're seeing, builders are still crushing it right now. I've got a new construction development in the Northside School Zone in Northport, and, kind of a little bit upper price, a little bit above the average price home. And, when I took over as the listing agent on those properties, that was a big thing that we talked about is like for you to move these houses up here, you're probably going to have to offer some lender incentives to buy down the interest rate. And that's why we're seeing, new construction. It's common right now that new construction buyers are getting around 5% or maybe even below 5% on new construction because the builders are offering incentives. So on this property, you've probably seen this on the channel before, these hilltop estates properties with the private lake behind them, the builder's offering $19,000 that can be used for an interest rate buy down. Okay, you might be able to go from 7% to 6% or from 7% to 5%, depending on the buy down, or you can use that towards closing cost or down payment. That's what we're seeing very commonly right now in our market and in other markets as well. So last thing here, before we go to the very last thing, if you have any questions about real estate, if you're watching this on your phone, you can't scan this QR code, but the link to my calendar is below in the comments, or you can scan this QR code. You can hop on my calendar anytime you want to. It'll just be me and you. Again, if you reach out to me from YouTube, I've got a team of over 100 agents, but when you reach out to me, you'll be working with me from beginning to end, not with my assistant, not with some rookie agent. It'll be me and you from beginning to end. I have people routinely flying into the area, driving into the area. We meet up, we go look at some properties, we go on a tour of the town, we go out to some local barbecue places and just enjoy our time together. We can hop on a video chat, we can hop on a phone call. That would be the best way to reach out. So the last thing here, this was very interesting. You would think, houses are sitting on the market a little bit longer. Prices are a little bit down. You would think there would be a little bit more wiggle room in the price. But when I pulled the number, those 298 that sold, when you take again, some of them sold for above the list price, some of them sold for below, but the average was an absolutely perfect 100.0, which means there's not much wiggle room in pricing right now for the ones that are selling. Now, the houses that are sitting on the market, inventory starting to go up, there probably is some wiggle room on the ones that are sitting there for 30, 40, 50, 60, 90, 120 days. There's probably some wiggle room, but overall, most homeowners that are pricing their properties realistically and are preparing those houses for the market are still getting top dollar for their properties. Now, it might be that they're selling it for full price, but they're offering a lender incentive, and that doesn't always come up when we search it that way. But for the most part, sellers are still able to sell. Buyers are now having a little bit more inventory to pick from. So that's why I would say today, May 2025, Tuscaloosa is in a fair market. It's not really a buyer's market. It's not really a seller's market. It's kind of fair right now. It's kind of fair to both sides. There's some deals to be had, but sellers are still able to sell their properties. They're still able to get them gone. They're still able to sell them for list price or very, very close or even above. And so right now we are in a fair market in Tuscaloosa. So that's where we're at. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks for checking out my channel. Please like and subscribe to receive more content, and feel free to reach out if I can help you in any way.